Your neighbor probably knows things about your dog that you don't. They know when the barking starts, how long it lasts, and which days seem worse because they hear what happens when the house is empty. Most of us only know one version of our dog, the one who greets us at the door, waits for food, and curls up beside us at night. But there is another version that exists only in the hours after you leave, a quieter, unseen version that lives between the moment you lock the door and the moment you return. You might think you know what happens during that time, but unless you've actually seen it, there's a whole story unfolding that many owners never witness. Your dog isn't simply waiting. They are navigating an emotional landscape that can be far more complex than we imagine. In this video, we'll look beyond barking or chewed shoes and explore what may really be happening during those long hours alone and the silent dialogue between your absence and your dog's attempt to cope with it. Number 1 is what we can call the 3-minute meltdown, the moment when the routine suddenly shatters. For you, leaving the house is just another step in the day. You check your pockets, grab your phone, lock the door, and head out. But for a dog with separation distress, that simple click of the lock can feel like their world disappearing. Studies from the University of Milan show that the reaction doesn't take hours to begin. On average, the first signs of distress start just a few minutes after the owner leaves. Around the 3-minute mark, many dogs begin vocalizing, the kind of howling that sounds like a call into the distance. By about 7 minutes, the stress often escalates into physical behavior like scratching, chewing, or tearing at objects. Many people think the dog is angry or trying to punish them, but that isn't what's happening. When a dog chews a rug or rips into a cushion, it's usually a desperate attempt to release overwhelming stress. Their body is flooded with stress hormones, and chewing becomes one of the few ways to discharge that pressure. What looks like destruction is often just a nervous system, struggling to cope with the sudden loss of the person who makes the world feel stable. Number 2 is the cycling of the storm, and it challenges the belief that once the barking stops, the dog has finally calmed down. But what cameras and physiological studies often reveal is something very different. The noise might fade, yet the internal stress response can still be running at full intensity. Researchers who monitored heart rates found that even when a dog lies down and appears quiet, their heart can still be beating as fast as if they had been running. Instead of settling into real calm, many dogs enter a repeating cycle. Every 20 or 30 minutes, a new wave of anxiety rises. They stand up, pace the hallway, check the door, whine softly, and then lie down again before the cycle repeats. From the outside, it may look like rest, but inside the nervous system is still under pressure. A silent house doesn't always mean a peaceful dog. Sometimes it simply means the stress has shifted from loud behavior to quieter, hidden signals inside their body. Number 3 is the backward clock, the anxiety that begins long before you actually leave. Dogs are extremely good at reading the small patterns that happen before your departure. Over time, they memorize the sequence with surprising precision, from your bathroom routine to the way you check your pockets or put on your work shoes. Each of these signals becomes part of a countdown in their mind. By the time you reach for your keys, their body may already be reacting. Their heart rate rises and their focus sharpens because, from their perspective, the moment of separation is approaching. That's why simple tricks like picking up your keys and putting them back down often don't work. The anxiety isn't tied to a single object. It's tied to the entire routine that tells them their source of stability is about to disappear. Number 4 is the arrival trap. For a long time, people were told that giving your dog a big emotional goodbye before leaving would cause separation anxiety. But more recent research from the Royal Veterinary College suggests that the goodbye itself isn't the main problem. What matters far more is what happens when you come back. When you walk through the door and immediately notice a chewed remote, a torn cushion, or a mess on the floor, the way you react in those first moments has a powerful impact on your dog's emotional memory. If your return is filled with anger, raised voices, or even quiet frustration, your dog doesn't connect that reaction to something that happened hours earlier. From their perspective, the person they've been anxiously waiting for has finally returned, and that return suddenly feels threatening. This creates a feedback loop. They fear you leaving, and now they fear you coming home. Number 5 is what many people call the fine dog, but that calm can sometimes hide a deeper kind of burnout. These are the dogs owners describe as perfect. They don't bark, they don't destroy anything, and they barely move when they're left alone. They simply lie by the door and wait. But researchers often worry about these dogs the most. In many cases, this quiet behavior is linked to something called learned helplessness. The dog eventually learns that barking or pacing doesn't bring their person back any faster, so they stop trying. From the outside, it looks peaceful, but their stress system may still be active. A 2019 study even found that some severely distressed dogs showed unusually low cortisol in hair samples, not because they were relaxed, but because their bodies had been under pressure for so long that the system could no longer respond normally. Sometimes the silence we see isn't calm at all. It's exhaustion. Number 6 is the biological sync, the deep connection between your stress and your dog's stress. Modern canine research has found something called cortisol synchronization. In a Swedish study measuring cortisol levels in the hair of dog and owner pairs, the pattern was clear. Stressed owners tended to have stressed dogs, while calmer owners had calmer dogs. Even more interesting, the owner's emotional state appeared to lead the pattern. In other words, the dog was reflecting the human. Every morning before you leave, your dog reads your emotional state and absorbs it. If the day starts with rushing, tension, or frustration, that energy becomes the atmosphere they carry after the door closes. In many ways, you set the emotional pressure of the environment before you leave. And when that pressure is high, it becomes much harder for your dog's nervous system to settle while they are alone. Number 7 is the failure of the second dog solution. He's lonely. He needs a friend. It's the most common piece of advice given to owners of anxious dogs, and it's almost entirely wrong. Research shows that getting a second dog often does nothing to help separation anxiety. In fact, in multi-dog households, dogs, especially males, often vocalize more when the humans leave. Why? Because separation anxiety isn't about loneliness in the general sense. It's about the absence of a specific person. It's a hyper-attachment to you. Adding another dog is like giving a person who is drowning a second person who is also drowning. Now you just have 2 dogs waiting at the door, feeding off each other's panic. The solution isn't more dogs. It's building the individual dog's belief that you are a predictable, returning force. Number 8 is the 40-minute tipping point, the beginning of the way out. When a dog develops separation anxiety, the core issue is that their brain has learned a broken prediction system. To them, the door closing always signals something bad is about to happen. Fixing this pattern rarely comes from leaving the TV on or using calming products. The method that consistently shows results is something called graduated exposure. The process can feel almost too simple at first. You might walk to the door, touch the handle, and then sit back down. Then you step outside for a few seconds and come back. Later you try 10 seconds, then 30, then a minute. Each repetition teaches your dog a new message. The door closing does not always mean a long disappearance. Instead, it becomes something temporary and manageable. Researchers have noticed an important threshold around 40 minutes. Once a dog can stay calm for that long without their stress response spiking, their nervous system often begins to settle for much longer absences. Those first 40 minutes act like a psychological barrier. Once the brain learns nothing bad happens during that window, the dog can finally stop bracing for disaster and begin to truly relax while you're away. Your dog doesn't experience time the way we do. They move between 2 emotional states, connection when you're there, and isolation when you're gone. The goal is helping them learn that both are simply parts of the same cycle. So, the next time you walk out the door, remember, you're not just leaving a dog, You're leaving a student who is still learning whether the world is a place where trust is safe.